So you're the kind of player who runs through the server and leaves a trail of bodies in your wake. The loot piles up and the list of enemies gets bigger and bigger. Eventually, those enemies are going to show up at your doorstep with a couple of rocket launchers, because they want their loot back. Are you just going to let them take it? Of course not. They're not going to break through the Blockhouse. The Blockhouse is a no-nonsense, fully equipped main base designed for a solo, duo, or trio. Every little feature you've come to expect from a modern clan base has been shrunk down to fit into the simplest footprint in Rust. The 2x1. The Blockhouse has it all. An airtight compound, 4 disconnectable TCs, a 360-degree wide-gap shooting floor, symmetrical roof access and ankle-biter peaks, 3 fully loaded bedrooms, a plethora of hyper-efficient storage, and a spacious, well-protected roof. With all of this at your fingertips, you'll have every tool you need to dominate the wipe and defend your spoils. For how cheap the base is, it's significantly resistant to a traditional side-end pummeling, and the Widegap Peekdowns are so stable that even with the entire core destroyed, the shooting floor can remain. With the right equipment and some sharp shooting, you can survive even the most serious online raid inside this base. The numbers on screen represent the base in its final form, making a liberal use of armored doors and upgrading absolutely everything to sheet metal. Prior to making these luxury upgrades, you can expect the base to be even cheaper than you see here, making it ridiculously affordable considering the amount of utility and storage the base has to offer. Let's take a tour of the base. Really quick before the tour starts, please consider giving one of my Rust movies a chance. I put all the same care into my movies as I do with my build videos, and they're chock full of drama, PvP, antics, and revenge. Give them a shot. You might be pleasantly surprised. Anyway, enjoy the tour. Approaching the compound, we come through one of our 2 primary gatehouses. With a combination of industrial doors and vertical metal embrasures, we have almost perfect vision to spot outdoor campers or fight back into our compound during a raid. Entering into the compound, we see that a matrix of 4 turrets completely covers the entire space. Only 2 of them are needed to cover the majority of the compound, so having 4 just makes it that much more difficult for raiders to breach the core. Entering into the airlock, a glass window gives additional vision, and some drop-off storage takes us up to the 2nd floor. Here we see multiple honeycombed loot rooms, our first set of beds, and an auto turret to guard it all. Descending into the heart of the base, we see that every inch of space is maximized with hyper-efficient loot rooms, an unlootable locker, a full set of sleeping bags, our tier 3 workbench, and of course, the TC. This room is covered with an auto turret as well. Jumping up to the shooting floor, we first see some additional drop-off storage and our primary bedroom. Your main battery sits deep in the 3rd floor behind it, away from any area that would commonly be pummeled with rockets so that your auto turrets stay online long into the raid. On either side, we have our 2nd and 3rd bedrooms, so every player has sectioned spawn points to kit up and get back in the fight. Taking a run around the Widegap shooting floor, we see that it provides a fantastic amount of coverage across the entire compound and deep outside, giving you every angle imaginable to fend off attackers and reposition between engagements. A mix of garage doors and double doors allow you to section off any portion of the shooting floor should it become compromised, and ankle-biter peaks on each side even allow us to shoot up at top-down raiders in the early game before we have a chance to set up turrets. Coming out from one of our 2 symmetrical roof access points, we see that the entire roof is covered 4 times over by well-guarded auto turrets, and a variety of additional angles are provided by the battlements situated around the perimeter. With ample auto turret coverage and a daunting amount of peekdowns and fortifications, this base packs one hell of a punch for unsuspecting raiders, especially if they underestimate it due to its small size. That's enough showing you around. Let's build this thing. As with any multi-TC footprint, you'll want to choose a flat spot to build. Verify that at least the basic footprint will fit. Start with a 2x1 like so, and then add a 2nd layer of honeycombing. Don't worry if this is too fast for you. I'll show it from the top when we're done. This is what it should look like. Then cut it back down to the starter. Upgrade both tiles to stone. Then wall in everything except this spot to the right of the triangle. Use a wall frame here. Seal it off on top and add a double door. Place your TC as far to the right as possible and as close to you as possible without blocking the window frame from being placed there later. This is important because otherwise we won't be able to build our main loot room correctly. For now, this space can be used to house your early game deployables, but don't keep it for too long. It has no airlock and leaves you vulnerable to someone going deep. In order to get a second door that prevents this, extend the base by 1 square in the center, 1 triangle on the left, and 2 triangles on the right. Wall in all of the triangles and put a double door on the end of the square, then close it in with roofs. The 2 triangle space will be one of your honeycombed loot rooms. We can fit the large boxes in now, but don't put the window frame in front of it until everything inside of it is upgraded to sheet metal, because you won't be able to reach inside once the window frame gets placed. For now, there should be plenty of space to live out of until you get your level 2 workbench. Once you have the garage door researched, you can proceed to the next phase of the build. Place down your level 2 workbench as far back in the empty triangle as possible. Craft up your garage doors and swap out all your double doors. Create a triangle elevator like so, and an identical structure above it. I find that placing twig triangles here makes it much easier to place the walls. Just remember to demolish them after. Seal this one off with a garage door as well. Come down to the missing 2 triangles and make your first floor airlock. A single door in the center and a garage door on the left with an elevator leading up. Seal in the entire second floor except the end of the square tile. That's where our 3rd floor jump up will go. Roof tiles cover the entire space, and a garage door seals up our eventual 3rd floor access. Another honeycombed loot room will go on each side of the 2nd floor like so, but the same rule applies. Don't seal them in until they're fully upgraded to sheet metal. If you find that you can't place a deployable, it's often because there's an open garage door beneath it. Simply close the garage door through the floor. Feel free to fill out the triangle loot rooms now. The final loot room on this floor is the barbecue loot room. Create a half shelf and seal it with a garage door. Do this before placing any of the storage because you won't be able to place it afterwards. Place your barbecues slightly farther out than the loot room so that you can get them close enough to the edge to squeeze in 2 on each floor. The small boxes fit naturally underneath. At this stage in the video, I will be building everything at its final level of material upgrade. Just remember that the TC room and all of the honeycombed loot rooms need to be upgraded to their final grade before being sealed in by their respective windows, because you won't have access to them once they're sealed in. The rest of the upgrade timings though are basically up to you and how you progress. With the core upgraded, we can properly outfit our main loot room. Start with a half shelf right here and a window frame in front of the TC, both upgraded to sheet metal. Follow these deployables carefully. The large box goes flush against the edge, the barbecue opens away from it, and places flush against it. This should allow another large box on the other side. Barbecues opening towards you on either side here should nicely allow 2 additional small boxes. And then place 1 more in the center. Repeat the exact same process on the bottom, with the addition of a second small box in the center. Now's a good time to window off your honeycomb loot room as well. Pick up your tier 2 workbench and replace it with a locker before windowing off the triangle and placing your tier 3 workbench in front of it. A small box can go underneath of it and 3 sleeping bags in front of it. And that pretty much makes up the core. With the core fully outfitted, let's do the same to the second floor. Place a half shelf above the first floor jump up and place these 2 garage doors. Use the same barbecue loo room design above the jump up. Window off both of your honeycomb loot rooms and then place your beds. Ensure that the foot of the bed faces the elevators and keep them a distance away so they don't block traversal up and down. Before we can move on to the shooting floor in the compound, we need to finish our jump up in honeycomb. Come outside and honeycomb the empty space here, then build another half shelf elevator on top of it. This will act as the entrance to our shooting floor. Upgrade it to high qual when you get rich. Follow around the base as shown with a full layer of sheet metal honeycomb. Place square foundations here with triangle ones behind them. Mirror this process on the backside with the addition of a single triangle honeycomb here. It stays 1 floor high while all the remaining honeycomb gets built 2 floors high and capped off with roofs. This is what it should look like when it's done. Add your armored single door airlock like so, using a single door frame on the left side and a window frame on the right. 2 single armored doors make the ground floor door raid significantly more expensive. Now on a live vanilla server, I highly recommend getting your compound up much earlier in the build than I'm showing you here, but I'm gonna show you now because it's the most complex portion of the build and I didn't want to scare you away earlier. For newer builders, the wide gap footprinting might seem like a lot to take in, but give it a try. Learning how to wide gap gives you a huge advantage over the competition, and if you practice it a couple times in a build server, you'll figure it out in no time. Don't underestimate yourself. So what is a wide gap anyway? It uses a series of tricks to end up with foundations that are offset from the main base at a specific distance so that you can place foundations in a way that'll hold up wall frames and a set of floors on top of those wall frames to create a gap between the main base and the external structure. That gap can be used as super strong peekdowns, as shown in the example on screen. So let's go over the exact steps required to get our wide gap peekdowns on this particular base. Start off on the front or the back of the base and build out with a square and a triangle. Then turn around and build 3 squares out from that and cap it off with another triangle. Remove everything except that final triangle and then build back towards the base with triangles until you get to this spot. Mirror that shape on the other side. Remove the 3 triangles behind you so that you're left with this little Pac-Man guy. Now give him a square on each side of his mouth and behind you so that it looks like this. Come up front and add your wide gap frames on both sides in front of the base like this. Create 2 connecting frames across where the gatehouse will go. Now you can create your gatehouse as shown. Make sure that the soft sides face towards the base, and eventually you'll want to fill them with glass to prevent people from bowing out your turrets through them. Use 2 twig triangles to aid in the placement of these barricades. Oh, and because of the wall frames carrying the build privilege across, you can remove these 2 foundations if you want. Just be sure to carry the privilege across to the other side with this frame if you don't plan on building the shooting floor right away. Now repeat the process identically on the opposite side. I'm gonna speed it up, but not by that much because I want you to be able to see it twice. While you watch me work, consider smacking that subscribe button and leaving a like on the video. I've been on the grind working as hard as I can to get this stuff out to you guys, and seeing all of your support is honestly the only thing that's kept me going. I also want to thank everyone who has supported me so far. You guys have been insanely positive in the comments, and it really makes it worth it for me as a content creator. Now we can do the sides of the base. They're even easier. Build out 3 squares from the base and cap it off with a triangle. Remove all of the squares and then build back with triangles until you get here. Mirror it and remove the 3 triangles behind you. That's basically it. Add the wall frames for the Peekdowns themselves and turn around and make the gatehouse as shown. I'm using a window in the center, but you could also use another single door for a total of 4 traversable gatehouses. It's really up to you. One barricade goes on top, and that's basically it. Now repeat on the other side. Remember that none of these structures have a TC connected to them yet, so they will decay over time. In order to prevent this, we'll create our external TCs and attach them. The external TCs will also prevent our main base from being griefed unless raiders destroy all of them as well, meaning they have to destroy 5 TCs in total to build on your base. We're going to be building Mini Satori's disconnectable TC. I'll link his guide in the description if you want a more comprehensive look. Start on any of the 4 gatehouses and build 4 foundations out, then cap it with a triangle and remove all of the squares. Use 2 half walls here, a full wall here, a roof on top, and then place your TC and window it off. Come to the gatehouse and build 2 floor frames off of the top, then 2 off of the top of the TC as well to connect it. In the event that your main TC is destroyed, you won't be able to replace it until you disconnect all of your externals, so this is how you do it. Place a twig foundation here, and a twig roof tile on top of it. And there you go. Do that to all 4 TCs and you'll be able to replace the main one. Then reconnect the externals. The process is identical on every side, so repeat it 3 more times. Always remember to put a lock on every tool cupboard you place, including the main TC. If you don't, raiders won't even have to destroy them because they can simply authorize to gain building privilege and grief your base. This is a critical error that I see beginners make far too often. Eventually, every Widegap wall frame should be upgraded to sheet metal so that they don't get accidentally splashed during a pummel style raid, and the foundations that'll hold up your auto turrets should be sheet metal as well for the same reason. I'll be covering all of the auto turret placements near the end of the video, so don't worry about that just yet. With the gatehouses and external TCs finished, let's place the compound. Placing your external walls couldn't be easier in this design. For the first wall, align yourself parallel to the large gatehouse and line up the edge of the wall to it, then tilt inwards a few degrees. After that, head to the small gatehouse and do the exact same thing, ensuring that the wall is directly at the center of the embrasure so it allows a peak on each side. The third wall should fit naturally in the middle. Then repeat the process 3 more times. Even though the steps are simple, I highly recommend practicing the compound placement on a build server, especially if you're using stone walls, because any gap in the compound will allow grubs to easily shoot out your turrets, and there's no easy way to get rid of the walls to replace them. This is what it should look like when it's done. Before we move on to the shooting floor, let's outfit our bedrooms. Start with the primary bedroom and battery room like so. The battery room should really be HQM if you're serious about winning during an online raid, especially if you're solo. The auto turrets will be the linchpin of your defense. Use a double armored door for the bedroom itself, and at least a garage door for the battery room. Place the power source like so, and then we can move on to the other deployables. The bed goes flush against this wall. If placed far enough, it'll allow for a barbecue opening away and placed as close as possible to you like this, and a locker directly behind it. Then 3 small boxes should fit naturally down the center. Before we can add our second and third bedrooms, we need to airlock this space. Use a single door frame on each side of it and a roof on the top. Now when we open our bedroom, nobody can get through either side. Come to one side and wall in the next bedroom like so. Make sure that you place the garage door before filling out the bedroom, or you won't be able to place the bed. You may have to remove or reverse the single door to fit the locker as shown, as close to the side and as far back as possible. If done correctly, you should be able to angle the bed against the two intersecting back walls such that it does not peek through when the garage door is closed. A campfire can be placed next to the foot of the bed, and 3 drop boxes can fit on the front wall as long as you place them as high and far back as possible. Realistically, I'm expecting you to place these drop boxes pretty late into the build, but if you do get them early on, keep in mind that if you place them too high, they'll block your ability to place your shooting floor roof, so it's best to place them after the shooting floor is done. Repeat the same process on the other side. Before we start the shooting floor, add one more garage door to separate each bedroom from the Peekdowns themselves. Then follow around the perimeter of the shooting floor as shown. I'll give you an overhead view at the end. And this is what it should look like. Now we're ready to build out the shooting floor. Come around to the inside spaces here and place wall frames as shown. These are important not only for stability, but to be sectioned off doorways for the shooting floor itself later. Most of what I'm showing right now should be pretty self-explanatory, so just follow along at your own pace. Make sure to separate the larger wide gaps with a frame in the middle. Every roof tile is built off of the main base, not the wide gaps, so be careful with that. It's important for our heli peaks and battlements. Fill out the wall frames as shown. A garage door splits up the large wide gaps, with double doors further sectioning it from inside. This is precisely mirrored on the other side. The shorter wide gaps are split with garage doors on both sides. Then mirror this as well. Fill out every window frame with a vertical metal embrasure. The final step to completing our shooting floor is our jump ups and ankle biter roof peaks. We will use the 4 triangle corners to build them, alternating between each type. First, we'll build a jump up. This is done in the typical elevator style, so you should be fairly used to this one by now. The roof peak is a bit different. Continue along and place a wall on the left. A half wall goes on the inside, with a window frame reversed above it. Then complete it with an elevator like so. Close in the top with half walls and a roof. Then place a horizontal metal embrasure to make the peak. This is good on its own, but you can make it even more narrow by placing a triangle floor frame here. Continue around the shooting floor and build a second elevator and a second roof peak in the same fashion. I like to place barbecue loot rooms underneath each of the jump ups and roof peaks, but feel free to place shotgun traps instead, or anything else really. The last thing we need to do to complete the build is construct the roof battlements, and then I'll show you how to place the auto turrets. In a real world scenario, you will likely need to use twig to place most of the battlements, so I'll show what that would look like here, but I'll be building it mostly no-clipped in the video to save time for the rest of it. The long sides of the base use 2 triangle roof tiles in the center and 2 window frames on the sides. Outwards facing triangle roof ramps intersect with the windows, and then they get covered with horizontal metal embrasures. The process is identical on both sides. For the short sides of the base, we use a window frame in the center and 2 regular roof ramps on the sides. A vertical metal embrasure goes in the middle, and it's identical on the other side. The last thing to do is add our auto turret shields on top of the roof peaks. They're pretty simple, a half wall on each side and a roof on top. Do it on both sides. And that finishes off the actual build. Now I'll show you my favorite auto turret placements in the order that I think they're best placed for natural wipe progression and to give you the best possible chance of surviving throughout your adventure. The very first auto turrets you should place are this pair in the compound. Not only will they completely remove the ability for grubs to loot your large furnaces while you're out and about, but they'll make an early game ground raid significantly more difficult. Next on the agenda is our 2 jump up roof turrets. The easiest way for raiders to succeed in an early game online raid is to land a heli on your roof and rocket raid top down, because you'll have extreme difficulty fighting back against the tremendous splash damage. Having these 2 turrets will drastically reduce the rate that you get top down raided, and even if raiders try to HV rocket them out, you can close the garage doors to stop that as well. Back down into the compound. Double up your compound turrets early to make a ground raid virtually impossible and to discourage grubs from compound bowing out the first 2 because they won't be able to loot them without destroying the other 2 as well. Next up, gain 360-degree coverage over your Peekdowns with these 2 turrets so that raiders can't make a breach in the shooting floor and ladder in to control your spawns. After that, double up your roof turrets to ensure that raiders don't get any funny ideas about trying to drill down into your core. Finally, come down to the core and place this turret to protect your main loot. And then head up to the second floor and place this turret to protect your secondary loot. And 1 more in front of your bedrooms to completely lock up every single area of the base. And that's pretty much the build. As with all of my base builds, this is only a platform for you to modify or expand to your liking and group size. There are many additional upgrades you could make if you get rich, and parts you could skimp out on if your wipe isn't going so well. To be totally honest with you, I've been grinding it out overtime, working super late into the night to keep making these videos. So if I made any sleepy oversights on the build process, I apologize in advance. As always, I massively appreciate your continued support, and all feedback is welcome in the comments. I'd like to give a special thanks to the members of the Satori Society build server for providing invaluable feedback and moral support on my building adventure. I'm sure I'll forget some, but here's a little list of people who really helped this video come to life. Mini Satori, Walker V2, Santoiman, Naku, and everyone else in the build community who's been kind to me along the way. I'm sure you're sick of my voice by now, so I'll just finish off the video by reminding you that you should really give one of my Rust movies a chance. I put a ton of love into those things and would be super grateful if you checked one out. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, take care, and I hope to see you again soon.